All right, folks, in the interest of time, I think we'll get started. We'll just let the last little bit of the line go through quietly. Hello and welcome to Pizza with the Prez, both people that are here in the audience as well as people on the live stream. My name is Greg Barrett. I'm the Vice President of the Strategic Growth Team. We're the part of Communitech that provides services and other such things to startups and scale-ups. Today, I'm here from my friend David MacFarlane, the President and General Manager of ESCRYPT Canada. Just a brief description, ESCRYPT Canada is a rapidly growing technical center of excellence owned by Bosch. Through an acquisition, they chose to be in Waterloo. Hopefully David will talk a bit about that. ESCRYPT provides automotive security and connectivity solutions. Think of things that work into the autonomous vehicle space. Most of you know Pizza with the Prez is an opportunity to hear from leaders who are starting and scaling companies in our area. David is going to share some events that led him into the startup world, including running the current startup he has, which is embedded inside a large multinational corporation like Bosch. He will describe his journey, his approach, and his reflections along the way. Following this, there'll be question and answer, so think about your questions as you go. Before welcoming, and that includes the live stream people, by the way, before welcoming David, I want to thank our sponsors, BlackBerry Key 2, MNP, LLP, Polsinelli, RBC, TD Insurance, and the Government of Canada, and the Government of Ontario. And now please join me. Thank you, sponsors. Our events team leader would like us to clap for the sponsors. Please clap for the sponsors. Thank you, sponsors. And without further ado, please join me in welcoming David MacFarlane, President and GM of ESCRYPT Canada.
Thanks, Greg. So can everyone hear me okay? The mic's good? Yeah, awesome. Okay. So thanks for the introduction, Greg. I'm going to focus more today on experiences that I've had that have kind of led me to where I am today. So both personal and professional experiences. And my thinking is that almost every experience we have is a learning opportunity. And we may not be ready for that learning opportunity, or we may not realize how it influences us, but I'd like to share with you some of the experiences I've had that have led me to shape the leader that I am today. And then share with you some of the challenges I'm having today that I know will help shape the leader that I am in the future. So, all right, so I do have slides, but they're not related to anything that I'm talking about. They're just something interesting to look at. They're pictures from family vacations over the last couple of years, but hey, if something resonates with you and you make a connection, let me know. There's no beach pictures, no, don't worry, yeah. It's one of my favorite ones there, okay. So I'm going to start with my childhood, okay. So who here has heard the expression, children should be seen and not heard? Show of hands. Okay, I'm really happy that most of you have not heard that, okay. So when I was growing up, conventional wisdom was that when adults were around, children were meant to be seen and not heard. So what kind of message does that send me, right? It tells me that my opinions don't matter, my ideas don't matter, and that I'm not really that important, right? So what that instilled in me, and I didn't realize at the time, was this really strong sense of equity. So everyone has a voice, right? So what I try to encourage with my team is like, it doesn't matter if you're a co-op student, a new grad, a senior developer, VP, director, manager, whatever, right? If you can contribute an idea or an opinion to a situation, then I'm more than happy to have you do that, right? That's really terrible, by the way, like children should be seen and not heard. Right? Imagine in today's day and age, choosing an entire demographic and saying you don't matter, right? Not cool. So while I was growing up, I grew up on Prince Edward Island, right? So I'm from the East Coast. So I spent the first 20 years of my life there. Had a lot of fun, right? Great place to grow up, nice place to visit. Has anyone vacationed there? Yeah. Nice beaches, good golf courses, right? And don't misunderstand what I'm about to say, right? I'm not generalizing. So I did encounter, when I was growing up, this mentality of good enough, or we make do, right? So not everyone is like that. I'm not generalizing to everyone, but I did encounter that, right? So both within my family and within the community that I grew up in. So, and I could not understand it, right? Like, why would we just settle with this situation, or why would we just settle with this accomplishment? So I really use that as motivation for me, right? To challenge myself to always do better. And how I applied myself was with respect to my education. So I'm going to share some kind of accomplishments that I've had. It's not bragging. I'm setting it up for another experience and another learning. So. I was a top 5 student in my high school. I got a full tuition scholarship to go to University of Prince Edward Island. 3rd year university, I was the top student in the entire university. 4th year, I was student number 2 right in the university. I missed the Governor General's medal by this much. And I got an NSERC scholarship to do a master's degree. So I came here to University of Waterloo to do a master's degree, and it was really hard. Right? It was really, really hard. And I graduated, but I did not experience the same level of academic success that I was used to, right? So, and it was pretty crushing, to be perfectly honest. So it took me a few years to find the learning in that experience. And looking back, what I can reflect on now is that success does not always look the same, right? It doesn't always look how you expect it to look or how you want it to look. It can be different from situation to situation. It can be different from team to team. It can be different from person to person. So my learning there was that success does not always look how you expect it to look. So a recent example, so I play basketball in a local recreational league. So in our division, my team is middle of the pack, right? So we do okay. Again, not related, right? So middle of the pack. So a few weeks ago, we played the number 1 team in our division. Do you think we won? No. No, we didn't. We didn't, right? And I'm the old guy on the team, so everyone on the team is younger than me, and they were pissed, right? They were upset. Can't believe we lost. They go, hold on a second. We lost by 6 points to the number 1 team in the division. Like 6 points in a basketball game is a really small margin, right? We scored more points than we normally score. We had more assists than we normally have. We had fewer turnovers than we normally have. So by every measure, right, every stat of the game except for win-loss, it was a success. Right? It's just how you choose to look at things sometimes. So again, success comes in different shapes and sizes. Right? All right. So I worked at a local company at the time. This was, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago. This company had a few thousand employees. The COO started this project, right? I was an up-and-comer, handed it to me and said, here, I've started this project. I want you to run with it, right? Cross-divisional, different teams involved. I was like, wow, this is amazing, right? So I felt very empowered, very important. I was on a call with a project team. And there was this other team that I'd never dealt with before, and I really needed them to do some work for this project. And the conversation was going in a direction where I could sense, they're not going to help me with this at all, right? So what do I do? So I say something to the effect of, listen, I'd like to remind everybody that the COO started this project, he's asked me to lead this project, right? So we need to do this, so it needs to get done. How do you think that went over? Do you think they wanted to help me? No, not at all, right? So what I learned, and the project ended up being, 2 years in length, but what I learned from that experience, right, and others during the project execution was that leadership can take different forms too, right? And also, right, if people don't respect you, they won't let you lead them, right? So that was a hard one there. So these are just a few experiences, right, that have shaped the leader that I am today. And right, in summary, right, everyone has a voice, everyone has ideas. Treat each other with respect, right? And success doesn't always look how you expect it to look, right? So Greg mentioned that I'm president and GM of ESCRYPT, which is a local company focused on automotive security. We are part of the Bosch group of of companies. And right now we're developing two solutions. So one is a smartphone-based digital key sharing solution to replace physical keys and key fobs. And the other is a secure communication solution for vehicle-to-anything communication, right? Focused on safety applications. So crash avoidance, pedestrian detection, no left turns, that sort of thing. So pretty interesting work. We have a lot of fun, right? We work hard, have a lot of fun. Part of the challenge that I have, and as Greg mentioned, we are part of the Bosch group of companies. So one of the key aspects of my role is to be that interface between the scale-up size company here and the large organization that is Bosch. So for those of you who aren't that familiar with Bosch, it's over 100 years old, right? Over 400,000 employees worldwide, and roughly 80 billion euros in revenue, which is what, 120 billion Canadian-ish, right? So going from this small organization, translating, interfacing, right, to this large organization, right? And I have a number of challenges that I'm experiencing today based on that. I want to share that with you. If anybody has ideas, because I'm still learning, finding the learning experiences, come talk to me afterwards, right? So let's take a simple one, corporate language. So every company here has its own language. We have our own language, right? Bosch has its own language. Bosch has refined its language over 100 years, right? Developed and refined it over 100 years. So we have a really steep, we here, the office here, we have a really steep learning curve to understand the terminology, the acronyms, the phrases, right? The keywords, right? The unspoken meanings. Not only that, the language, so Bosch is a German headquartered company, right? So it originated in a different language, right? So I've learned the hard way over the last couple of years that even if I'm using the same words, the same acronyms, the same terminologies, my meaning can be completely different than my colleagues and my senior management team in Germany. So how I approach that now, and again, I'm still working on it, right? Is I have to work extra hard to seek to understand, right? So it's asking extra questions. It's assuming that I don't understand what I'm in the conversation rather than assuming that I do, right? And echoing back, right? So it's painful sometimes, and it can be embarrassing. Like when you ask your senior leader 5 times, can you please repeat that? I'm really sorry. I'm not sure that I understand, right? But it's working extra hard to understand, you know, the discussion. Open to ideas, always, if you have any. Let's take change management. So what kind of change do you think a 100-year and 400,000 person organization is good at? Transformational or incremental? Thank you. Incremental. And I would say incremental is still really hard. Right? So they've refined their workflows, their processes over 100 years, right? Over different geographies. And for us, being a small, scale-up, startup-sized company, how do we approach problem solving? Right? We need to make a change. What do you do? You get a group of people into a room, identify the issue, brainstorm ideas, select one, and then off you go. And that can take, what, half an hour, an hour? Maybe if it's really complex, it'll take a day, half a day, right? Something as simple as identifying, I forgot about the sheep. Something as simple as identifying what the issue is, right, can take weeks or months, right? Let alone implementing a change in such a large organization as Bosch. So again, me being the interface between the small organization, the large organization, translating, managing expectations, sometimes explaining to my team why it takes so long, right, for a change to be made, or explaining to the larger, like to headquarters, why we need to make this change so quickly rather than have 5 prep meetings and alignment meetings and so on, right? So I don't have a good solution for this one yet, but it does come. Right now, it comes down to just more communication, right? Almost over communication on some things. All right, change language. All right. So another challenge I have right now, and this is the last one that I'll share, is culture. So at a foundational level, Bosch is an aspirational company in Germany, right? So Germany and Europe. So people are very aware of Bosch. People want to work at Bosch. If you are able to get into the company, you might take a job that you don't really want just to get in, and then you can stay there because there's so much opportunity, right? So in North America, what do we think? Right? I hate to say, what do we think of when we think of Bosch? Dishwashers, appliances, power tools, right? So people, like even when I was first interviewing, I wasn't aware of the full breadth of Bosch, right, and what it offers. So just even at that foundational level, right, I can't rely on brand name recognition or, you know, my grandfather worked at Bosch and it was the best job he ever had, or my mother works at Bosch. Like, I can't rely on that, right? So we have to make sure that the culture we develop in the office here is suitable for us. It's suitable for the local community, and we kind of fit in, right? And you know, that's things like empowering employees and making sure that the work is interesting and challenging, right? But we don't necessarily leverage the brand name as much as we could or should maybe. But that's really difficult to explain to headquarters when they have the mindset that, oh my gosh, everybody wants to work here, right? Everybody knows this is a really good job. Of course you want to, like, what do you mean you made a job offer to somebody and they declined it, right? So being able to articulate to them that we do have a different culture here, we need a different culture here, but that's okay, right? Again, that's really challenging, right, for one of the challenges that I have. So again, open to ideas if anyone has any. But right, how I'm approaching it now is again coming down to just communication, right? So communicate over and over again why it's important. We have a guest here from, you know, Bosch North America, right? So it's hosting people here, touring them around, showing them the great community that we operate in, and this helps them understand, right? Just like it's important for me to understand that Bosch culture, it's important for them to come here and understand the culture that exists here. So I kind of blew through this, but I don't think anyone's ever complained about a talk being shorter than expected. So again, I just wanted to, like, I'm more than happy to talk about kind of the, like, how Bosch decided to land here, and, you know, kind of the first year with setting up, you know, an office and going through an acquisition. You know, more than happy to talk about that, like, over pizza. But today I just wanted to talk about kind of experiences that I've had in the past, right, that I know have influenced and shaped me. And then share with you kind of the ongoing experiences and hopefully learning opportunities, right, that I have today. So thank you very much.
Thank you, David. Questions? Brian. Sorry.
So what are the best and worst mistakes you've made in your career, and how have those helped shape you?
So one of the worst mistakes I've made is I've stayed in a job too long, to be perfectly honest. I let it get to the point where it's affecting me personally, right, and my family. Yeah, so I'd say what I would do differently is engage in the community more, right? So at the time I was working at an organization that, like, at least in my role, was not connected into the community. You know, I didn't really have a sense for kind of what other opportunities there were. So I'd say, you know, I'm not encouraging you to leave your jobs, right? But I'm just saying, like, get out there, right? Like, talk to people, see what's going on in the community. Networks are incredibly important, right? And right, you never know what will happen. So, what are the best mistake? That's a really good question. I've made a lot of mistakes, right? But I think just treating each one as a learning opportunity, reflecting on it, I think every mistake can be a good mistake. Yeah.
Yep.
I was just wondering if you could maybe provide some insights. So like, let's say the company has a core value, core product. You're doing really well, and it's time to expand. What kind of signs should you be looking for to kind of expand your company in different directions? Or is it just kind of, should you focus on your core customers and values?
David, you can just repeat the question, please.
Yeah, so let me echo back, right? So the question was, if I could offer any insight on when you know it's time to expand, right, from maybe your core business, or if you should stick with your core business. Again, a really good question, and I don't think there's any right answer. I'd say, an indication that it might be time to make a decision if it's always in conflict, right? So I don't know if there are teams that are in conflict because, well, one, you're trying to serve this customer, but no, we've got this other priority over here. This is really important. That's a clear indication, right, that it's time to at least have that conversation, right? So an approach, not saying it's the right approach, an approach could be to say, do you know what, okay, I'm going to carve out these 2 people, 3 people, this small team, and give them some runway, right? Give them some runway and see what they can come up with. And maybe they come back in a half a year, however much time you can afford to give them, and they say, I don't think this is right. That wasn't a waste of time or resources, right? So, yeah.
David, I've got one, and then we'll make sure everyone gets in. What brought Bosch here, and what makes the Bosch Technical Center of Excellence unique in the Bosch family, or this ESCRYPT unique in the Bosch family?
Yeah, so it's the talent, right, that's available here. It's the academic institutions. It's the collaborative, connected ecosystem that really brought it here, that supported the decision to land here. What makes the office here different, or unique, I should say, we are the only R&D location in Canada, right, for Bosch. Right. There are R&D locations in the U.S., but we're the only one in Canada. And just organizationally, we're technically part of the security division that's headquartered in Germany. So while we have ties, right, to the Bosch North America family, we're not actually kind of organizationally part of it. So that's unique as well. Yeah.
A bit more specific to your current role.
Yep.
Would you say, or what would you say is a main set of mistakes a lot of companies are making when it comes to security? Because there are a subset of mistakes you can see a lot of companies making, whether they're startups or scale-ups.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
So specific to security, like, are there a set of mistakes that a lot of companies are making that you can kind of see?
Okay. So one common mistake is to not think about security at all. Right, so adding security to a mature solution or product is much more difficult, right, than including it from the very beginning. Another mistake is to think, it's not going to happen to us. Right, I think it's a matter of when, never if. Your product will be, maybe some. Board researcher will say, hey, I'm going to take this product and give it a kick around, and they'll find something, right? So, or if you're looking at your corporate network infrastructure, right, it's constant. If it's connected to the internet, it's constantly under attack. So not including security considerations from the beginning, and assuming that you won't be affected, right, are probably the 2 key mistakes I see in the security space. Yeah.
Jane? Hands ready?
You're going to ask for a real estate recommendation?
happy to take one
Yeah.
or have you give one, but no, that's not what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
You touched on the talent issue
Yep.
and how some people say no to Bosch.
Yep.
What are you doing to attract talent? Talent's an issue for everybody.
Yep.
What's the secret sauce that's bringing the people into your company? I know you do great things, but
Yep.
there's got to be a little bit more to it, and not necessarily monetary. What else are you doing?
Yeah, so
It's money only.
no, it's not money only. We can't compete with some of the companies in the area, right, when it comes to money. So first and foremost, there has to be a really strong cultural fit, right? So I know there's a local company, they phrase it as like no brilliant jerks, right? So I don't care how smart you are, if you're not going to mesh well with the team, I'm not interested, right? So there has to be a good cultural fit. I mean, of course, there has to be a skill set match. Right, and we offer like flexibility, right? So I mentioned we're working on 2 solutions, but we develop the entire solution, right? So the software that runs in the vehicle, the mobile app, if there is one, the back-end infrastructure, right? So we can offer, we do offer, right, flexibility in what people work on, and you know what, they may come in and we may think that solution 1 is what they're going to work on, or project 1, but you know what, they're really interested in this. Okay, well, fine, let's work on that, right? So good cultural fit, skill set match, right? And we offer like flexibility, right? And we have a cool office that Jane helped us find. Yeah.
Shameless plug.
Yeah.
No
I'm
more
not
shameless
above that.
plugs with these questions.
I have a question. When you're running projects within the larger Bosch organization, have you seen any patterns about like what makes the project successful, or like processes you need to follow, or anything like that?
So this is, you've identified another area where we differ, right? So where the office here differs. So just to give you an example, right? My second and third weeks I spent at headquarters in Germany, getting orientation, getting to know people, understanding how they develop products, that sort of thing. There are no product managers, right? So for me, a product manager is critically important, right? It's that interface between the development team and the customers and the industry. That didn't exist. It does now, right? But at the time, it didn't. So I think it's difficult for me to say like kind of what good question, but what are the patterns, right, that lead to a successful product, right, from the larger organization. I see them looking at how they're developing and saying, you know what, we can't do waterfall anymore, or we can't go away and develop for 2 years and come back with the perfect solution, right? So I see them moving more to what we do, right, where it's that kind of continuous integration, continuous release, right? Yeah. Yeah.
So Dave,
Okay.
if we, I guess, look back pre-acquisition at TrustPoint and
Yep.
on the vehicle to anything side, all the effort that they put into getting involved with standards bodies.
Yep.
Are there any general lessons for the people in the room that you can talk about, whether that kind of involvement is worthwhile, or whether it's helpful leading towards an acquisition, or why companies may want to avoid it or do it?
Yeah, good question. So the ideal situation, right, is if you have a product that is part of a standard, right? So if people are forced to use your technology because it's part of a standard, that's fantastic, right? You've almost got a captive customer base. So if you're developing a product or a solution and you have the opportunity, right, to get into a standards body or a working group or industry committee where they're kind of setting guidelines or setting standards, and you have the opportunity to influence that, right? To either leverage technology that is yours or looks like yours. I think that's worthwhile. Right? Yeah. Does that answer your question, Ken?
I guess whether that led in any direct way to the acquisition.
I think it. Yeah. So the context there is okay. So the first year of ESCRYPT, it was me and a small team. But during that first year, we were going through due diligence of a local security startup, TrustPoint. So Ken is asking about, so TrustPoint was involved in setting the technical direction for V2X communication, right, in the US. So was that a factor? Absolutely it was a factor, right? So TrustPoint had positioned itself as we are the security technical experts for V2X in North America, right? So of course that, right, that added credence to credibility to the team here. Yeah. Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
As it relates to culture, is your product evolution driven by push or by pull?
Push.
Push.
Yeah. So it's, I mentioned product management. A lot of it is business development too. Right. So getting out there, it's like pre-sales almost, right? So identifying customer needs, saying, hey, right, like we have this thing. Why don't we do a trial together? And then showing them, oh wow, you can really do this crash avoidance thing. Like, look, pedestrian detection video that we can send around, Greg. Right, where we can really demonstrate the value that we bring. So I'd say right now it's more push. Right. Yes.
Michelle?
Thanks. Hi, I was just wondering, being a scale-up plugged into a larger organization, are there some benefits that you wanted to talk about maybe in terms of, have you been able to tap into some of their resources to speed along development? Is there
Yeah, absolutely.
capital help, that kind of stuff?
Yeah. Yeah, good question. So if we were developing automotive solutions and we weren't not plugged into Bosch, we would never get a meeting with a manufacturer like GM or Chrysler, right? Maybe we could get a meeting with their suppliers, or maybe we could get a meeting with the supplier's supplier, right? Being a part of the Bosch organization now, if we want to meet with GM, we can meet with GM. So leveraging that long history of trust, right, and customer relationships, yes, very, very beneficial. Yeah, yeah, good question. Yeah. Mm.
David, a question. You have two products.
Yes.
In terms of go-to-market, when will those products start being regularly in market? If you could comment on each of them separately, it'd be just interesting because they're both.
Yeah,
cool.
so digital key sharing, we have delivered a few proof of concept solutions to potential customers already. We're targeting end of next year for, don't hold me to that, right? We're targeting end of next year for mass market. On the V2X side, the industry has a long way to go still, right? So yes, there are all kinds of autonomous vehicles, right? And cars are becoming more and more connected, but it'll still be a while before it's just flat across the entire industry that all cars are connected. So that one's a little longer, but we do have, again, we do have proof of concept deployments with some potential customers already. So, yeah.
Other questions? Okay. Any questions?
No?
Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone, for attending, David. Great presentation.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah.
So,